Hello, Africa. It is Wednesday, the 27th day of September 2017. Kenya is just 28 days away from that much-awaited, much-anticipated presidential rerun slated for October 27th. We'll have all the latest from Kenya, as well as from a neighboring country, that is Uganda, where the controversial debate surrounding the presidential age limit is still underway. I'm going to join shortly my colleague from Kampala, Uganda, Solomon Serawanje. I'm sure he has all the latest. Let's now take a look at Africa in 60 seconds. After weeks of grandstanding, the IEBC finally gets NASA and Jubilee to a negotiating table ahead of the October 26th repeat polls. Uganda's government blocks the media from airing live parliamentary proceedings as the age limit debate enters the second day. Unemployment levels dominate a live televised debate by Liberia's presidential hopefuls in the capital, Monrovia. On our news tonight, and we begin from right here in Kenya, where a meeting between the representatives of the Jubilee Party, that is the ruling party, and the National Super Alliance, NASA, that is the opposition, and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is expected to resume tomorrow morning to iron out their concerns ahead of the October 26th repeat of the presidential election. Now, the meeting ended this afternoon without any clear resolutions after NASA got wind that a bill aiming to make changes to the electoral law was being discussed in Parliament. IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati says the parties agreed to resume discussions tomorrow after reaching out to the National Assembly to drop discussion on the said amendments, awaiting a clear resolution from the concerned parties. Today's meeting was chaired by the IEBC Chairman himself, Wafula Chebukati, who is also the presidential returning officer.
Agreed on the agenda for this particular meeting. However, one of the parties, that's the NASA party, raised an issue as to a bill which is in Parliament, which may be affecting the electoral laws. This meeting has agreed that we look at that bill among other issues, and we cannot proceed today because none of us has a copy of the bill. So this meeting will be adjourned to tomorrow at 10 in the morning, where the contents of that bill will form part of the discussions.
Over to Uganda now, where Uganda's Communication Authority has warned radio and TV stations against broadcasting live content that, quote-unquote, promotes a culture of violence among the public. Now, it will take action against anyone violating broadcasting guidelines by suspending or revoking broadcasting licenses. The order comes after media broadcast chaotic scenes from Parliament on Tuesday, that was yesterday, when fighting broke out among MPs as they prepared to debate the contentious removal of the presidential age limit. A proposed constitutional change by the ruling NRM party will scrap the upper limit of 75 years. Analysts say that NRM lawmakers are pushing to remove barriers that will prevent President Yoweri Museveni, who is age 73, from running in 2021.
We want to fight, we want to use legitimate measures, but to defend our constitution, and that's what we are exactly doing. Yes, our friends have numbers, we cannot deny that, but we've stood our ground.
So on that note, I want to remind President Museveni that one time he said just a piece of paper cannot put him away from power, that he will get in power till when he dies. So I want to still remind him that this constitution of Uganda is just a piece of paper. So let him not dare touch it. Let him not change anything in it.
What I know is the speaker is acting against her wish. Because if you look at how the speaker smuggled into the order paper, this thing was not in the order paper. It means he's working under strict instruction from someone else. I am praying to the president of this country. I am praying to Ugandans. Let us know that the time will come when all of us shall die.
No, this is not a matter of sustaining. It's a matter of the future of this country. We are coming from the dark past. We should use our past to have judgment that is correct for the generation to come. We represent the people of Uganda who went through a lot of challenges, and President Museveni fought to restore good governance and human rights protection. And that is what the Constituent Assembly in 1995 came out with.
Well, let's cross over to the south of the continent, and in South Africa, hundreds of people took to the streets of Johannesburg in protest against state corruption in a show of force targeting embattled President Jacob Zuma. Protesters began their protest from outside the headquarters of the trade union organization COSATU, who organized the demos across the country. The giant trade movement behind today's anti-Zuma protests say Tuesday's demonstrations will be, quote-unquote, the mother of all rallies. Similar demonstrations were observed in at least 13 cities across South Africa. Meanwhile, a group of 36 Dutch tourists flew out of South Africa on Tuesday after they were robbed at gunpoint on Sunday in brazen haste while traveling from Johannesburg main international airport. Now, the incident is an embarrassment for South Africa, a country keen to promote itself as a tourist destination, but scarred by violent crime. Tourism accounts for 3% of GDP and is seen as a bright spot in an otherwise moribund economy. The group pulled out of the hotel in a bus under police escort after they met with South Africa's police minister and tourist minister, as well as the ambassador from the Netherlands.
Men robbed the tourists of their personal possessions. 2 of the tourists were reported injured and had to be treated by paramedics at this lodge, the Zulu Nyala Country Manor. We are here as representatives of our people to convey our apologies on what has happened to our visitors. Ambassador, we don't have words to express our embarrassment and our regret for what happened to the people of Netherlands. We can only hope in our efforts that many tourists will come in our country as we rid ourselves of criminal elements. And thank you very much for your deepest understanding and your solidarity with us for understanding that these things do happen given a particular socio-economic outcome.
There's so many people traveling up and down between our 2 countries, not only tourists, but also students and interns and business people. And well, if you ask me if I would recommend it again, I was shocked and surprised by what was happened on Sunday night. It's out of the ordinary. We've never seen something like this before.
Now, let's cross over to Nigeria, where Nigeria's president is under no obligation to disclose his medical condition, even though he has spent most of the year being treated abroad, one of his ministers has said today. Now, Muhammadu Buhari has spent lengthy periods in London since January, sparking speculation about his fitness to govern that country and also questions about who was footing the bill. Now, the 74-year-old former army general has said only that he required blood transfusion and had never been as sick in his life. Buhari's information minister suggested the silence was not unusual just hours after the president returned to Abuja.
I think there's so much speculation as to what he's been treated for. And I think we'll rather, respect his privacy. If Mr. President, feels like telling the world his ailment, so be it. I don't think it's under any obligation to tell anybody. I don't see any president anywhere in the world who will be ill and will not be taken care of by the state. And I see president did not want to be ill himself. Illness comes naturally. I think a lot have been made out of Mr. President's illness. It's not strange at all for a sitting president to be ill. And it's not strange either for the state to take care of his medical bills. He is concentrating all his efforts to ensure that he delivers on all promises. If he's going to run, I think that's left to him. But right now, his major preoccupation is delivering on all his electoral promises.
Over to some development in Liberia now, where Liberian presidential candidates have faced off in a live televised presidential debate where they propose solutions to solve the nation's unemployment problems ahead of the October 10th elections. Now, 2 key candidates, among them former football star George Weah of the opposition and Vice President Joseph Boakai, however, skipped that crucial debate.
We need to grow and expand the economy, and through that growth, we'll create jobs for all Liberians, but particularly for young Liberians, the young people, because they represent the bulk of our population.
Governments do not create jobs. Government creates the opportunity for the private sector to flourish and to create jobs. That is what we will do.
I am going to take Liberia from being a resource-based economy to investing in alternative industries. And those industries are three major industries I want to focus on. I want to focus on the agriculture industry, the ecotourism, and also the fishery industry.
And still in Liberia, separately, former football star and presidential hopeful George Weah has called for change in Liberia and said he was confident ahead of next month's election in the West African nation. Now, the first African player to win both FIFA World Player of the Year and the Ballon d'Or, Weah successfully ran as a presidential candidate back in the year 2004. He was defeated by, of course, Salif Johnson when he was defeated, and he also ran as a vice presidential candidate in the year 2011, but his running mate lost to Salif as well.
This time around, I think I've gained experience. I've kept my political party for 12 years now, very strong and vibrant. I've persuaded a lot of Liberians to believe that the change for hope is necessary for our country to move forward, for our people. But this time around, this is why we are asking today, the entire world, those who are responsible for the democratic process, that we are asking for free, fair, and transparent elections. I think what is important is to look at my record, what I've done for Liberia and for Liberians, how I live in the rest of the world that I live, those institutions I work for. You know, I have impeccable records that cannot be beaten. I will make sure that our hospitals are equipped, our doctors and nurses are trained, and they are encouraged to work.
Now, Mozambique's governing Frelimo party has begun its yearly conference, which is expected to focus on efforts to keep peace in the country following a resurgence of conflict between the government and Renamo opposition rebels. Nearly 3,500 people are taking part in the 11th Frelimo Congress in Matola, Maputo province this week. Some of the delegates and guests, including Mozambicans from overseas. Now, topics such as effective peace and increased production and productivity are also to be discussed during the meeting. We do not want to govern only with campaigns and projects. Our debates have to guarantee the sustainable strategic vision and anticipation culture. It's common to say that to govern is to solve problems, but the Frelimo government doesn't limit itself in solving problems. For us, it means not to let the problems happen in the first place. Dear comrades, don't let the doubts exist. The fight against corruption is more urgent.
In this country, when Frelimo meets in a Congress, it's for the best interest of the Mozambican people.
Don't go too far. Bottomline Africa, we'll be right back.